Everybody, we're going to get started in 5 minutes. If I can have everyone. All right, we're up. I call this meeting into order at 4:01 p.m. Yeah, sure.
So President Stiff will be here in probably like 10 to 15. There's a family emergency going on, but they'll be here as soon as possible. So that's why we're going to go ahead and get started right now.
All right, we're going to get started with the roll call. Senator Basnett. Senator Basnett. Senator Hashimoto.
Here.
Senator Chimizier. Senator Chimizier. Senator Carlson. Here. Senator Roberts.
Here.
Senator T. Schiffer. Senator T. Schiffer.
He's on Zoom.
Senator Hoff.
Here.
Senator Henson.
Here.
Senator Osman.
Here.
Senator Dustin.
Here.
Senator Saha.
On Zoom.
Senator Spears.
Here.
Senator Nguyen. Senator Uzefa.
Here.
Senator Wing.
Here.
Senator Pina.
Present.
Senator Nowak.
Howdy.
Senator Flynn.
Here.
Senator Hopwood.
Here.
President Stiff will be joining us shortly. Vice President Severso.
Here.
Speaker Khan here. All right. We're gonna get started with our presentations. Just a little note, we're having our presentation for the student activity fee by the chair and vice chair under presentations and not under the new business. There will be no time limit for that. But the only reason I'm moving this presentation up is because a lot of people will be joining us just for the pre-presentation, and I don't want to have them wait until the end. So we'll get started with Emmy, who will go over some of the rules and regulations and what we're going to be looking forward with too, and then we're going to move on to the presentation from our SAC team. All right, Emmy, you're up.
All right. Cool. Hello, it's your friendly neighborhood student government advisor here. Ready to give you the lowdown for today and what you're going to be seeing. So, let's see if I can technology for a second. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be similar-ish to last week, but there's some different stuff, I promise, and that's going to give you the exact same feel over again. So, reiterating. Dates, process, what we're talking about today, and then things to keep in mind, especially with this fee, because this one's a little bit different than some of the other fees that we've done, or that we've heard so far. So, cool. So, we've done the first week, so it's nice and crossed out there. Today is March 2nd, and we are hearing the student activity fee presentation. Next week, no meeting. March 16th is our last week of presentations. The big date to remember in relation to the student activity fee is March 23rd, because that is when student government will make its final recommendation. And if necessary, move the fee to referendum. We'll talk about that in a moment. All right, so the basics of the student activity fee. So this provides partial or complete funding for a lot of departments and activities on campus. The Spark Notes version includes the recorder, campus recreation, student activities, multicultural affairs, the community center, the LGBT and women's centers, theater and dance, and many, many more, which you're going to find out in a minute. So how this works is, starting in late November, early December, all the departments get a request that they fill out for their fee request. So they say, I'm asking for this much money to be put into these different categories. That then is brought to the Student Allocations Committee, who is a committee separate from student government, who will review all of those requests and will actually look at the projected credit hours to see what's actually going to be feasible and balance the budget from there. Then, Student Allocations Committee presents to student government. That's today. So, this is assessed on a per credit hour basis, expanded like tuition, capped at $112.50 per semester, and this is one of the two fees that, if it goes over a 2% increase, is subjected to a student referendum or a student body vote. So, student government's role. I just mentioned that. If it goes over 2% when student government makes their recommendation on March 23rd, then it'll go to referendum. One thing to note with this is that if it does go to referendum, student government also has to recommend a backup budget. So you might have heard us talk a little bit about that. So that budget is under 2%. With the referendum, it's 50% of students who are voting in that election specifically. So if there are questions about that, we can chat more about it later. Just the overview. Once that's done, reviewed and recommended by Dr. Day, and then approved by President Inch. So, we're going to get into tips here because I know a lot of folks have been very curious to hear this presentation. I know I am. I haven't seen it yet. So with this presentation, I really want to stress that if you have a clarifying question, please ask it, but please avoid things where you have a rebuttal or a point of department comment phrases the question. There's lots of time to dig into that after today, but right now, focus on trying to understand what's in the presentation. This is going to be the most complex budget that you look at in a presentation here. And there's a lot of numbers to keep in mind. So, take a minute to absorb all this. I'm pretty sure it's on my next slide, but take a minute to digest before you actually start looking into all the numbers. After presentation, but before the vote, read through the documents, ask questions, really ask questions. If you have specific questions for departments, go talk to them. You're going to be able to get a much more beneficial conversation with them and a much more informative session if you actually meet with them than if you wait for them to come in to the actual student government meeting, because there's a time limit on that, and they're not going to be able to go into it the same way that they can if you actually meet with them. Most departments like to talk about what they do too, so great opportunity to get to meet some folks on campus. And the other thing with this is doing the legwork ahead of time is going to make that meeting on March 23rd much shorter. This could be a very long meeting. We started an hour early. It could be done by 6 p.m. It could be done by 9 p.m. or later. So do the work ahead of time, and it will benefit you in the long run. A little bit about March 23rd. So any department that's not satisfied with the recommendation from Student Allocations Committee can actually appeal that recommendation. And so they would briefly present at that hearing on March 23rd. They have, I think it's like 5 minutes for rebuttal. We'll get to that later. But if a department is satisfied with the level of funding recommended, they're typically not going to attend the budget hearing. Many requests are considered routine, so if they're just asking for the same amount of money, cool. Generally non-controversial. If you're looking at making an adjustment to a department that is satisfied with their student allocation request or recommendation, talk to them ahead of time. It's considered a best practice or an unwritten rule that you're not going to make an adjustment to a department's budget without requesting that they're present at the budget hearing. Other things to know with this, during the hearing, we will go through each department's funding recommendation and vote line by line. We'll talk more about that later, but just know that if there are departments that you have questions about, we will be reviewing them with a chance to ask. Just some other things to keep in mind. I mentioned this earlier, this is the most complex presentation. There's going to be a lot of information. If you can take notes, I would recommend it. You're not going to understand every intricacy from the budget presentation alone. There's a lot of documents that go in behind this. Student Allocations Committee, when I asked them earlier, estimated 35 to 40 hours that they spent reviewing all these requests and the presentations. This is a challenging budget to make a recommendation on, especially this year. So keep in mind that they've done a lot of the work ahead of time. You don't necessarily have to go reinvent the wheel. So you can also ask them questions too. 2 of them, 3 of them, or you said it. I mean, I don't see Senator Saha here, but he's on stage. Another thing to keep in mind, don't wait till the last minute to start reviewing this. It doesn't look good to anyone if you come into the budget meeting and you're asking questions that could have been answered ahead of time. It's just a good professional practice. Departments put a lot of time and energy into these requests. And we also don't make money from them. So departments, when they put in these requests, they're not asking for it as like, oh, I'm just going to take some money from here. So know that this is something that departments really do. Like, they would rather have the chance to talk about it with students and kind of get that understanding. A couple final notes. There are going to be some disagreements as you go through this process. That is normal of any large group decision making, especially when you have something so complicated. Remember that this is a collaborative process. We're all in this together. It's not a matter of seeing how many things you can get for yourself or your specific constituents. This impacts 13,000 students. So please be really mindful as you're listening to each area. And also, please try to do your best to apply the same set of priorities and standards to the different fee areas. Just so that way we know that we're creating an equitable process for everyone. So, what questions do we have?
Senator Wayne?
So I do have a quick question about the referendum,
Yes.
if it were to go to referendum. So you mentioned that it's 50% of students voting in that referendum. Is that saying that there is not a set quota that we need to meet in order for that referendum to pass?
Correct. As far as everything's written in policy, it's just 50%. So,
Okay.
Vice President Soberso?
It's not 51, it's just half.
I will double check that. It does say majority, so typically if
Okay,
it's
so
50% it goes, but I will double check that for you.
Okay.
50% plus one?
Yeah.
Do we have any further questions? Any last questions? Any questions over Zoom? Let me take a quick look. All right, we're good. Thank you, Emmy. All right, at this time, we're gonna get started with our next presentation, which is from the Chair and Vice Chair of Student Allocations Committee. Once again, there's no time limit for this presentation, and just a little bit of note on, we will be hearing their presentation today, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. You can ask questions about like what the rationale is, but you can't ask questions to critique it. And then we will not be doing any discussion or voting on this today. All right, are you guys good to get started? All right.
Spiffy.
Emmy, are you pulling it out right now?
I am right.
Oh, okay, 1 second.
Yeah, I need to reshare my screen, so I had it like closed out so it wouldn't like spoiler alert. So, all right, slideshow. Slide start.
Bear with us, we're having technological issues as usual.
Don't worry about it. Why did you turn that off?
Okay, go ahead.
Right out.
Oh.
Do you want it on?
Yep.
Oh, what's that? Oh, did you want that on? There you go. Oh, I'm sorry. It just keeps it. Bear with us for a minute. All right, is everyone good?
Yes.
Awesome. Is the mic working? All right, awesome.
All right, well,
Thank you.
Make sure it's close to the microphone too, so it actually picks you up.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Speaker and fellow senators. My name is Zahara, and I'm the chair of Student Allocation Committee.
Hello, I'm Douglas Roberts. I'm the vice chair of Student Allocations.
All right, so Student Allocation Committee this year have 6 members, three of which are senators, which includes me, Douglas, Avi, and then 3 that are non-senators, McKenna, Ahmad, and Carson. Student Allocation Committee are responsible for hearing and making a recommendation regarding RSO program and travel funding requests. We're also responsible for hearing and making a recommendation for student activity fee funded program during the fiscal year budget process. We spent the last 2 months working with this budget, department hearing, and the deliberation, which lasted 6 hours. So this year's SAC's goal is to maintain and improve student activity support, combat food security, provide better support for student leaders, prioritize what students want to see, and then support academic areas that impact attention of students.
Next slide.
All right, so this is the example I'm going to be using throughout this presentation. So on the left side, where it says FY22, we're going to show what was given last year, and in the middle section, it'll show what they are requesting this year, and then on the right side, it'll show what we recommended. And then for FY23, it starts July 1st of this year, and it'll end June 30th of the following year.
Alrighty, so now for the overall budget impact. This current year is $2,722,930. The overall request that we received from all the presentations was $3,084,185. So this is a grand total of $361,225 in additional requests. That is not accounting for the fact that the amount of fee dollars that is valued now is going down based off of the number of credit fee paying hours going down. So our recommendation. Our recommendation is $2,895,994, which is a 6.36% increase of the fiscal year 22 base. I want to clarify right now that this is not the referendum number. This is just a pure number of dollars that is being increased based off the fiscal year base. We are going to offset that amount by $125,000 from reserves. We're recommending that it comes from reserves in order to prevent massive programming from being harmed as a result. Thus, the final recommendation is $2,770,994, which is the cap. That is the official cap, and that is a 1.77% increase in pure dollars. That is not the amount of increase in terms of percentage of the referendum. This is a referendum budget still that we are proposing to you. That is just pure number of dollars that is being added. So first off, next slide, apologize. Onwards to campus rec. This year's budget was $576,009. They requested $618,552. Our recommendation was to give $602,886, which is an increase of $26,877. So how did we come up with this decision? First off, we wanted to make sure that compensation and fringe was covered. We covered the DA tuition increase with this recommendation, and we covered a portion of student wages with this increase. Some of the reasons why we did not give the full request is that there are some other sources of revenue available that may be able to make some of this difference. One of those areas is restarting community memberships. They discussed in their presentation that they haven't been able to do that as a result of the pandemic. With the current conditions of the pandemic seeming to come to a close, they should be hopefully able to restart those community memberships again. Another element is that Campus Rec reduced revenue through the lockers, and we advise that they restart that revenue source again and bring that back up to regain a few $1,000s on that front. The other element, and this is going to be quite repetitive throughout this entire presentation, we're living in the tightest budget ever. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. Campus recreation continued. The full request was not given. One of the areas we recommend Campus Rec to is not necessarily reducing student staff, but more efficiently using the student staff. So spreading out their student staff a little bit more so it's more efficiently used across the hours to reduce the amount that is being spent by them. Another area is sponsorship and foundation dollars may be available for use that can cover some of this small gap between our recommendation and what they've requested. And we also wanted to encourage better fiscal responsibility. This is not, to clarify, an attack. We're just acknowledging that some other areas are able to stretch their dollar more, and we're asking Campus Rec to stretch their dollar a little bit more in line with a lot of other organizations and what they're doing. Onwards to sports clubs. Their fiscal 22 base is 25. They requested 25. We recommended 20. This is a decrease of $5,000. The reason for this decision was tight budget. The second element is a decrease due to the overall student interest declining in this area. We've looked at the past few years. There's a decline in interest in this area. The next area is Maverick Adventures, climbing walls and ropes course. Their base was $160,295. They requested $171,809. We recommended $165,000. This is an increase of $4,705. First off, tight budget. But we wanted to acknowledge that we covered their wages and GA tuition out of this recommendation. And we really also wanted to acknowledge, while in a perfect world, we would be able to give them their full request, but we wanted to acknowledge that Maverick Adventures is growing in popularity on this campus, and we really wanted to acknowledge their success and the popularity it is getting from students. Over to Trip and Travel. Their base was $21,134. They requested $21,656. We recommended as requested. And the reason why we gave the as requested is this was just a GA tuition increase coverage. It is just for the tuition and nothing else. This area is completely dependent on a GA to do all the programming that Trip and Travel does with Maverick Adventures. And we really wanted to acknowledge once again here that Maverick Adventures provides extremely unique experiential learning opportunities that are quite popular with students. We really wanted to acknowledge one of the recent events that was quite popular, which was their ice fishing event, which a lot of students had a very favorable opinion of. Onto the R&R fund. Their base was $10,000. They requested $20,000. We gave $0. This is a recommended decrease of $10,000. Obviously, first area, it's a tight budget. We also wanted to acknowledge that Campus Rec does have some funds in reserve, as reported in their SAC presentation. We also wanted to acknowledge that grant money may be available if they are in need of covering some of these other areas. We're asking them, just as many other organizations are seeking out grant money to cover some of their needs.
All right, so forensic. I just want to mention that Douglas was not a part of this decision because he is a speech coach. So we wanted to avoid conflict of interest. So for FY22, they got $11,000. This year they requested $20,000. SAC recommends giving them $4,000, which allocated $3,000 more than last year. Reason for not being able to give them the full requested amount is because, again, it's a tight budget. But we do acknowledge the
Can I
significant
request
growth.
you to speak closer to the mic?
Oh, sorry. We acknowledge the significant growth of the team, and we do acknowledge that the team has improved accessibility, and we do acknowledge the improved engagement with the campus community as a whole.
All right, onwards to gender and sexuality programs. They were at 55, they requested 55, and we gave them exactly 55. The reason for this decision is that gender and sexuality have been extremely fiscally responsible with their funding requests, and they've excelled at their active programming. We also really wanted to acknowledge that they have supported so many student initiatives. One of those student initiatives came from this body right here, student government, in terms of women's health products being accessible in the bathroom, and they covered it. They covered it into their budget, and we really wanted to acknowledge that the work that they are doing to making sure that students have a fair opportunity at this university and feel safe at this university and feel like they get their needs covered at this university.
Okay, so moving on to green transportation fee, which is the bus. For last year, they requested $303,000. Sorry, that's what they got last year. This year, they requested $438,310. SAC recommends giving them $400,000, which allocated an increase of $97,000. Reason for not being able to give them the full requested amount is because of the tight budget, but we also do acknowledge the importance that the bus has for students on campus. International Activities Center, last year they got $60,000. This year they requested $66,687. SAC recommends giving them $60,000, which is allocated the same as last year. Again, the reason for not being able to give them the full amount is because of the tight budget, but we also saw that they reduced revenue of $8,000 by choice to redirect it to those funds in the RSO 901 accounts rather than supporting their main organization. But also SAC recommends working more with international students to better serve what students have been requesting. And we do also acknowledge the importance of the International Activity Center for the international students.
Alrighty, onwards to the Maverick Food Pantry. The base was $15,000. We'll also note that they had a one-time allocation of $15,000. They requested $30,000, and we recommend as requested. This is a $15,000 increase from the base. The reason for this decision is, one, this serves a significant amount of our community on campus in terms of combating food insecurity, which is extremely high on our campus, higher than most other campuses in the state and also in the country. So this meets the student needs of combating food insecurity and giving them an opportunity to make sure that they have food. So we really also wanted to acknowledge that the Maverick Food Pantry is stretching their dollar quite well, but we also wanted to note that throughout their entire process, they said it in the presentation, anytime that they have donations or other funding, they prioritize using that funding before going to student activity funded dollars. The reason why they wanted to do that is they recognize the importance of the activity dollars in terms of programming, in terms of student impact, and the need for students to be able to have access to those funds for their programming. So they made the promise and that if they ever have any leftover funds, they would return the entire amount so programming can succeed on this campus if they ever had a surplus.
All right, next slide. Multicultural student activities. Last year they got $47,000. This year they requested $48,500. SAC recommends giving them $48,000, which is an allocated of $1,000 more. Again, reason for not being able to give them the full requested amount is because of the tight budget, but we do acknowledge that they excel in their area of programming, which is why we give them an extra $1,000 of what they asked.
Onwards over to the music ensembles. Their base was $72,150. They requested $79,150. We recommended $73,150. This is a $1,000 increase. The reason for this decision, and maybe a recommended title for the reporter article, is tight budget. We also wanted to acknowledge that music funding has had a significant effect on the quality of the music academic program here on this university. We also wanted to acknowledge that students find music programming critical to campus life. One of the things that we heard was how much of an effect when the choir came out to the fall late night breakfast, how much it had an impact in terms of their experience. And we really wanted to acknowledge that, and also in terms of their events with sports teams and such and so on, and how much music affects the campus life here.
All right, so non-budgeted request fund, which is the RSO Club travel and programs. Last year, they got $25,000. This year, they requested the same. SAC recommends giving them the same.
On over to repertory dance. Their base was $5,000. They requested $10,000. We recommended $5,000. The reason for this decision is obviously the tight budget. The second element, the biggest reason why they asked for this increase was to fund a DTA. And our committee went back and forth on this discussion about whether it met the historic usage of SAT funding. And the reason for that is GTAs typically teach courses within the department at the university, so they teach specific courses. They wanted a DTA to teach specific courses within that department. And that doesn't necessarily meet the line of how GAs are currently being used, who are funded under the SAF line, in terms of supporting that program in terms of, all of those elements. So we found that that didn't follow in line with the historic uses of the funds. And then we also wanted to acknowledge the historic fiscal responsibility of repertory dance and their long history of stretching their $5,000 year after year after year effectively.
All right, next. So reporters, last year they got $129,100. This year they requested $133,699. SAC recommends allocating as requested. Reason for this decision is that we do acknowledge the prior agreement between student government and the reporter to prevent massive deficit of the reporter due to non-student position not being fully funded, but also the increased cover salary and fringe. And reporter equipment R&R fund. Last year they got $0. This year they requested $4,000. SAC recommend giving them $0. Again, this reason for not being able to give them the full amount is because of the tight budget, but also they have unused funds remaining in the R&R fund, and also grant money might be available to be applied for.
Slide. On over to the staff administration business service office. Their base was $229,390. They requested $239,575. We kept them at the fiscal year 22 base. The reason for this decision is high budget. And the second big reason is we wanted to acknowledge the essential service that the staff administration plays. We now acknowledge that they provide so many services across the board, from music licensing, so for the CSU, for RSOs, for the music department, in terms of paying those licensing fees. So we really appreciate them. Unfortunately, due to the tight budget, we couldn't do much there.
Okay, next. Student activities, the admin office. Last year they got $585,776. This year they requested $613,169. SAC recommends giving them $600,000, which allocated an increase of $14,224. Again, the reason for not being able to give them the full requested amount is because of the tight budget, but also this increase will give is given to cover a portion benefit of their wages. Community engagement. Last year, they got $9,797. This year, they requested the same. SAC recommends allocating $10,000, which is an increase of $203. Reason for this decision is that SAC acknowledge and appreciate the programming that community engagement offer. Also engages a significant number of students to improve the life of the community, meets students and community needs to combat food security. SAC believe this area is critical for students to achieve the mission and goal of the university. Also, they do support Campus Kitchen, which is a legacy project from 2005.
On over to fraternity and sorority life. Their base was $15,000. They requested $15,000. We recommended $10,000. This is a $5,000 decrease. The reason for this decision is obviously the tight budget. We also wanted to note that members of FSL paid dues that help fund a significant amount of their needs. We also wanted to note that enrollment has declined by 40%, as reported in their presentation, and also that the decline is going to, at least for the end of the year, is going to be pretty substantial due to the number of graduations they are about to have. This is also from their presentation. They also have a history of not using their full budget, looking back to the past few fiscal years, and also accounting for the current national trend with FSLs across the nation.
All right, homecoming. So last year they got $51,750. This year they requested $50,525, which is a decrease of $1,225. SAC recommend giving them the same as requested. Leadership, Maverick Involvement Team. Last year they got $7,400. This year they requested the same. SAC recommends allocating the same. Non-traditional Student Resource Center. Last year they got $2,000. This year they requested $2,000. SAC recommends allocating the same. We also want to acknowledge that they excel at providing resources to non-traditional students. All right, recognized student organization. Last year they got $3,900. This year they requested the same. SAC recommends allocating the same. All right, student events team. For FY22 they got $115,220. This year they requested $156,975. SAC recommends allocating $134,649, which is an allocated increase of $19,425. Reason for this decision is that, well, we first couldn't give them this before requested amount because of the tight budget, but we do also want to support the student leader better. Also, the stipend from the original base was increased by three times of the base of what these student leaders were being paid in last year.
All right, onwards to student government. The base was $114,009. The requested amount was $124,481. Student Allocations Committee recommended $117,243, an increase of $3,234. The reasons for this decision is 1, tight budget. 2, this covers the benefits of the salary, benefits and salary of the office manager. All right, over to the no increase provided to exec leadership. And here are the reasons why we did this. And so first off, current student government bylaws currently prevent this increase. So if you want to implement this increase, the bylaws would need to be changed in order to implement said increase as requested. The second element is we acknowledge that student exec wages are not perfect. We acknowledge that you do not get nearly enough for the work you put in. However, you are still receiving a substantial amount of support. $7,000 for the president, $5,600 for the VP, and $3,000 for the speaker.
Again, just to put a picture in your head, if you compare student government to student events team, Rihanna as a president gets $7,000, the student events team president get $950. They both do the same amount of work, different areas, but similar times, like similar hours, 20 hours a week. For their vice president, they get $725. Vice president somewhere else will get $5,600.
So we acknowledge that it's not perfect in what you're getting, but we also want to make sure that one area at least sees improvement, because that's really important. We also, once again, recognizing the tight budget on this element here, we also wanted to note that there's some other initiatives that we've overheard from Senate in terms of covering some student leaders within student government who are not being paid currently. And Student Allocations Committee did not want to get caught up in the middle of that and making a decision that needs to be a student government decision and student government conversation. So we did not want to interfere in that conversation that clearly needs to happen between student government as a whole, because it just is not SAC's responsibility to make that decision for you.
Okay. Next is theater. For FY22, they got $68,000. This year they requested $82,000. SAC recommends giving them $71,000, which is allocated $3,000 more than last year. Again, reason for not being able to give them the full amount is because of the tight budget, but also we give them an increase because tier needs support to maintain current programming. We do also acknowledge that outside funds grants were mostly used and are running out. We also acknowledge that the foundation has nearly run out of funds. All right, last but not least, veteran resource programming for FY22, they got $6,000. This year they requested $12,000. SAC recommends giving them $6,500, which allocating $500 more. Again, the reason for not being able to give them the full amount is because of the tight budget. But also SAC believe that the programming that VRC puts on is beneficial to many students on campus. They were underfunded compared to other resource center, and also SAC believe that this area has served students extremely well in combating misconception and supporting veterans who are going through a hard time.
All right, on over to the fee projection as recommended. So as you saw in the beginning of our presentation, the new amount that we are recommending out of just pure fee-paying dollars is $2,770,994. If you were to divide that by the number of projected fee-paying credit hours for this upcoming fiscal year, which is a decrease to what it is currently is 295,573. That produces the fee rate of $9.37 per credit. If you were to take that number and put that against our current fee per credit hour, that would be a 4.46% increase, which means that our recommendation is requiring a referendum based off of our proposal here. If you were to multiply $9.37 by 12, you will get a band rate of $112.44. I know some of you might be confused on why that's not $112.50. $112.50 is the real cap. However, the actualized cap is $112.44. And the reason for that is we cannot make an in-between cents number between $9.37 and $9.38 to make that actually land at $112.50. So if we were to make it $9.38 per credit, that would exceed $112.50. Thus leaving us that $9.37 is the highest that we can go based off of what is going on, meaning the actualized limit is $112.44. As you noticed earlier, we were proposing a recommendation of using some reserves. The current amount of uncommitted staff of reserves is $849,823.29. We propose the usage of $125,000 of reserves to prevent a massive decline in programming on this campus. We recommended of that $125,000 that $100,000 of the reserves goes to the busing service and $25,000 of the reserves goes to funding the RSO travel and on-campus programming portion. That is where we recommended the reserves go to. However, at the end of the day, it ends up being all of student government's decision how that ends up going in place. So with that being said, questions?
All right. I'm going to get started with Senator Nowak.
Howdy, friends. I would like to know, so this really pertains to the plan to utilize some of the reserves. Once we are no longer able to use those reserves, whether that be next year if we're not dipping into reserves or if we just simply run out of reserves, what is the plan then? Because would the additional $125,000 not push us over the state maximum?
So in terms of that in terms of reserves, we can use reserves, at least for right now. Obviously, that's not a good precedent. It's not a good precedent to be always using reserves. But one of the things we realized is about using the amount of reserves we've used, are recommending to be used, that a lot of programming would have to be decreased as a result. The hope is that in the next few years, the student activity fee cap is going to be hopefully raised, allowing us to get out of the situation we are in needing to use reserves to protect a substantial amount of programming on this campus, and to maintaining the quality that our university is right now.
Senator Carlson?
So my question is, so obviously, as you said, we're over that 2%, so it would go to a referendum. Was there anything specific in the, I guess, presentations that you heard of like projects that these different areas were doing that could be presented to students as, hey, this is why you should vote yes because of this? Because I know like we had the dome at one point and that was kind of a sell point, but...
Absolutely. There are so many different, it comes to programming, right? There are so many different areas of programming that would be effective if we did not achieve the 2% line. There would realistically be a significant amount of cuts that would have to be made across the board if a referendum is not done. It was not successfully done. But in terms of all the presentations, we had gender and sexuality in terms of the project that they just achieved with all of you. There's just an infinite list of projects that are being done. It basically comes down to each area in terms of international students, multicultural. There's just so many projects that students are working on right now, so many projects within their organizations that is changing the life of our campus, especially Maverick Food Pantry in terms of the experience that it offers.
I was going to say, this would be something that would be great to discuss as we look at actually passing the budget. It's good to be thinking about it now, but just to make sure we're using time most efficiently. So, yes.
I'll take my next question from Senator Hawk.
So my question to you was, when we see the budget, some of them have asked for a definite increase, but according to SAC, we did not give them as much. For example, if you go to the green transportation, they asked for $466,000. We gave them $397,000. And one was for the theater ones where we saw that we cut their budget by $4,000 because we saw music, or was it theater, I forgot, clearly not recognizing on those. By decreasing those budgets, will those programs be affected by a decrease in budget, or will there be any significant changes for the facilities they're offering?
There were only 3 areas that received a budget decrease. 2 of those were within the campus rec umbrella, and 1 was within the student activities umbrella, FSL. In terms of the green transportation fee, their base was 303. They requested 438,
Yeah.
310. We offered an increase to 400,000. That's still a $97,000 increase that we are proposing for them,
Okay.
that we are recommending.
But with the other departments that's there with decrease in those fundings, will there be effect in them if they do not get the grant, or if have something like that? If they're, like, for example, you said that some of them can apply for a grant in the near future if it's available. What if those grants aren't present or like not available?
Yes.
Where will those fundings be coming from?
Senator Hub, this is more of a discussion question, so I'm going to ask you to not have that question.
We can slightly answer that real quick.
All right.
Oh, Mark.
I just want to clarify one thing that was said. There was another group that was cut too. You said 3 is 4. Student activities got cut by
Yes.
$13,000 too, just to make sure the group understands that wasn't mentioned.
I apologize. Yes.
No problem.
All right, and then I'm going to request you all to have one question on your turn. I'm going to move on to Senator Hashimoto.
Yeah, it's really like a simple question. I just wonder. I saw some like the presentation slides mentions students see the needs in it, or students got like we see the growing or whatever. Is that some of like campus-wide data that we refer to, or is that what kind of like decision-making process there?
Which area were you? Because there's a lot of areas that have
Yeah, I think I'll
growing
have to
amounts.
look back on it if you want to. But
Are
I
you
think
thinking?
that,
Are you thinking about Maverick Adventures when we were talking about the growing popularity?
yeah, I think
Oh, yes. And that was reported from their presentation. That was one element. I believe we saw some data as well within our big binders, which will be uploaded. You'll all be able to see everything that we saw starting tomorrow morning. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, they'll be out tomorrow morning on the site.
Yes. So you'll receive a dump of information that will have a lot of the data that we were able to see. But it was reported in their presentation as well. And we also saw that as well based off of the number of students participating. Because we also, as students as well, hear a lot of things and a lot of growth in those areas and a lot of excitement. And a lot of excitement that was brought up in that presentation too about how quickly it's growing and how, it's going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Novak?
Howdy again. I was wondering if there had been considerations made to creating a backup budget if the referendum fails.
This is not student allocation's responsibility. That would take a million years longer for Student Allocations Committee to achieve. But historically, in any situation where a referendum situation happens, that has historically always been student government's responsibility. Our responsibility is to give you that initial recommendation for whatever is deemed fair based off of what we have received from our presentations, from all the information that we receive in terms of the data that we've collected, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? Any questions? Yes, Mark.
I have one clarification, just to make sure the room knows. When they talked about staff administration, business services office, that's not me, it's not our business office, our budget person. It's the university that holds all of our money and goes ahead and does all the paperwork for all of all of student fee funding, basically, along the way. Just maybe everybody doesn't get that one, but it's an important element. It's nothing to do with the CSU or student activities. It's the administrative branch of the university that helps take care of all the paperwork that makes all the staff funding work. Not just this budget, but all the staff funds.
Thank you, Mark. I do not see any further questions, so thank you for your presentation today. Motion state that.
Move to take a 10-minute recess.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a dissent? All right, we have a 10-minute recess. We will be coming back at exactly 5 p.m. All right, everybody, we're getting back to our meeting at exactly 5 p.m. Our next order of business is open forum. First of all, I have Scott Nelson for open forum on Zoom.
See if he comes back live.
Scott, can you hear me?
He is not in this picture.
All right, I'll take Senator Roberts, and then we'll go back to Scott.
Hello all. I am reading this on behalf of a constituent. This is a testimony from a constituent and related to DTA wages. It is extremely hard to make ends meet when living on a $10,000 student stipend only. I am an international student and I have a family of 5, including my spouse, 3 children, and myself. I am the only one working in my family, and I can't even work off campus to make extra income because of my visa. Increasing the stipend over $10,000 would allow people like me to balance school and DTA work more effectively. Pay rent, which in fact raises every year, purchase health insurance, which also increases each school year, have some extra money to purchase other basic needs. Even though there's a proverb that says, beggars are not choosers, DTA and GA have hope in you who holds all the power to improve their lives in this society, where certain important prices increase without an increase of compensation. This is brought up by my constituent Godot. They are a current graduate assistant in the Communication Studies office. Any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Any questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, no questions. Thank you, Senator Roberts. Scott, are you here with us?
I couldn't see him in the picture.
All right, do I have anyone else for open forum? Anyone for open forum? Last call for
Oh,
open.
he's here.
All right, we have Scott.
Scott, you're muted.
Scott, we are muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I was in the new flooring and was meeting with the plumber right now. Athletics, just wanted to drop in and say that all the student tickets that are free for this weekend's hockey game are taken, but we're opening another 100 for next weekend, so the Mavericks be fortunate enough to advance. And thanks for everybody's support for all of our teams this year.
Thank you, Scott. Do we have any questions? Any questions for Scott? All right. Last call for open forum. Moving on to the approval of consent agenda. Do I have any dissent on the approval of consent agenda? Any dissent? Any dissent? All right, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to officer reports, starting with President Stiff.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Senate. I have a few things for you all today. First thing is off-campus housing update. We have been meeting still regularly, and this past Monday, I think it was, we met again, and we were able to put a recommendation forward for a company that we think we'll be going with for an off-campus housing website. So stay tuned for that. Along with that, we have been meeting with Students United, and some senators and myself have been meeting with representatives from the local Mankato area. We met with Senator Friends and then Representative Luke Fredericks, and that was pretty good. We were basically trying to get them to support some of Students United's state's advocacy initiatives and their platforms, and so we will see what comes out of that, especially in this bonding season. Next, again, immigration attorney is coming to campus April 13th, so if you know anyone that needs to meet with that attorney, please let Amber know and she can set up an appointment with you all. Again, I hope you all have gotten a chance to nominate a member for the awards that we talked about last week. We really want to make sure that we are nominating the best professors, mentors, whoever else you think has helped you throughout your college journey. I'm still also looking for a representative for the university's Emergency Operations Plan Committee. Again, we've been talking a lot about accessibility, and I want someone from student government to be able to serve on that and give a student government perspective on what needs to be included in that plan. Other than that, I also wanted to take a moment to address some questions that we've been getting about executive leadership and some of the things that we do on a week-to-week basis. And so first I'll just start off by if there's any uncertainty or unclarity about kind of what we do on a day-to-day in student government, I can give you guys that breakdown. But anything Kara, Matt Hill, or I do between the three of us, we all know about prior and way beforehand. Other than that, we've made a commitment to be transparent with each other, and because I think three heads are better than one, I think we've operated as a team this year instead of me being a dictator as the president. And so other than that, I just want to be clear about some of the things we have going on. We stuck to our initiatives this year. We stuck to working on our projects. And other than that, we also recognize senators who have been extraordinary this year. So, for example, Senator Wing, if Senator Wing has to go somewhere, he lets us know 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to advance. Senator Carlson has been very active in everything we've done this year and has expressed any opinion she has very respectfully. Senator Ryudo, you've been very tuned into everything student government has been going on. So trust us, we are being diligent about our work and what we do from the week-to-week basis. And we also have those conversations about senators who are also doing extraordinary at their job as well. And that's all I have. Oh, I guess next week is spring break, so have fun, y'all, and don't come to student government because we won't be here.
All right. Then thank you, President Stiff. Do we have any questions? Any questions for President Stiff? Any questions? All right, moving on to Vice President Saversal.
All right, so I have a few things today. First is we have Meet and Confer tomorrow. Unfortunately, it is on Zoom, so we will not be having lunch, but better luck next time. So if anybody is interested in that, please send me, Manahil, or Rihanna an email, and we'll get you the link. Next up, me and Rihanna have scheduled budget meetings to meet with different departments to kind of dive into different parts of the budget. So we have a few of those scheduled and more to come. So we encourage you to do the same, or if you know of multiple senators that have questions or concerns about an area, try and coordinate those together. Next up, on Saturday, we participated in Pedal Past Poverty. Thanks to PR and Marketing Coordinator, Senator Novak, all the titles, for helping coordinate that. Senator Pina also came. Emmy was there. It was a really good time. We biked a lot, and the
48 miles total.
38 miles total.
48.
Oh, 48. My mind.
Joey and I knew how to turn up the gears on the bike.
Yeah, once we figured out the gears, it helped.
That was great. Unfortunately, we did not win Most Spirited because other people had Care Bear costumes. But we got multiple compliments. Yeah, I'd say they're compliments about our dancing skills. So we didn't leave empty-handed. We also won some gift cards, and so now we are 2 years running in terms of gift card winners. So we have McDonald's gift cards and Pub 500 gift cards. So we're kind of rolling in the gift card cash right now. The other exciting thing was Mr. Cowan got back to us and said that the event raised over $90,000 to help contribute towards ending poverty in this area. So we're super excited about that, and we're glad to be a part of it. Finally, we met with the president last week, and so that was a pretty big meeting we had. We talked kind of in depth about kind of where we're at with the Wellness Center, and then we've gotten a lot of clarity from Dr. Jones. So I'm not going to announce right now what we're exactly moving forward with, just so we can have a couple more things hammered out, but expect that in the coming weeks, and I'll have full details for everybody on what's our short-term progress and long-term progress, but good things are happening. Yeah, so that's about it. That's all I can think of.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any questions? Any questions for Vice President Saversal? Any questions? All right, moving on to my report. We're having True Colors activity right after the Senate meeting. Attendance is required unless you send me an email. And if you're not present, you're gonna get in trouble. I'm kidding. You will. Food will be provided. So if you miss, that's very sad for you because we could have, I don't know, Applebee's, Olive Garden, Chipotle. There's many options, and we would like to thank Max because he's been like hinting me from the back to be like, please thank me because he helped us with the food. Here you go, Max. This is your time to shine. Awesome. Moving on, and then the activity is going to be really good. Emmy has been working really hard for that, so we're going to have a lot of fun. Moving on to Memo for the big budget meeting. So if you have any classes, which you should not have, but if you have any classes, any group meetings, any exams, midterm, whatever you have on that day, when we're going to have long budget meeting, Student Government Office provides you a memo to show it to your professors to get out of that commitment so that you can be here with us and attend the meeting, vote, and everything. So if you would like to get that memo, please reach out to Amber, who is our office manager, and she will get that prepared for you. And make sure you talk to your professor and give that memo to them beforehand so that you don't get in trouble very last minute. Last thing is the immigration attorney visit. Again, this was a very, very successful event last year. A little bit of how it's going to go is it's going to be on April 13th. We're going to have our attorney present for about 45 to 50 minutes on hot topics of immigration law. After the presentation, we also get to have 15 to 20 minutes consultation appointments with the attorney where you can ask them about any of the concerns that you as an international student have. They're private, confidential, but we do ask that you sign up for those. So we'll have Amber start a sign-up sheet very soon, and you can sign up for those. We will also be contacting KIC to get more of the international students to be aware of this event. But again, if you have friends, if you're personally an international student, if you know people who can take advantage from this event, please reach out to them and let them know in advance. Again, they can sign up for those personal consultations for 15 to 20 minutes through a sign-up sheet that we will be starting very soon. Before I go to my last thing, do we have any questions? Any questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, then the last thing on my report is Dean of the Day, and we have Dean Dahlman with us today.
Good evening, everyone. Here to represent the Council of Deans. I serve as the interim associate provost and dean of global education, so anything to do with international falls under my portfolio, and then help the provost with all kinds of issues. Great to be here. Love listening to your discussions, both serious but also a great community of leaders. So keep up the good work and have fun next week. That's pretty great.
Thank you, Dean. Do we have any questions for Dean Dahlman? Vice President Silverswell?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to shout out Dean Dahlman as an exceptional leader and member of cabinet on this campus. The dean has been super consistent in viewing us as people and offering support as such. And so I just really want to commend you for the consistency with which you've done that and how helpful you've been all year.
Oh, that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dean Dahlman. All right, and then next week is, as our president, Steve, already announced, spring break, so have fun. You will not have any office hours for next week, and do not come to Senate. All right, that's all from me. Moving on to our senator reports. We have 3 senator reports today. Since our meeting is already going longer, and then we do have another session, I'm going to request the senators to keep their report for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and then we will open the floor for questions. I will get started with Senator Hashimoto.
Hello, do you
hear me? Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the time today. I have a couple of things that I would like to report from the last semester / the early this semester. I remember that I was talking about some Korean initiative within the College of Arts and Humanity. We actually had a really good conversation between the program directors and the dean, and we actually concluded that we were able to have the meeting with the Korea Development Center in order to utilize some of the connections that our department has over the upcoming virtual Korea Fair. So if you see any of the referral from our professors and our instructors, that would be probably from our conversation, and I feel really satisfied that we were able to get some input on there. And moving on to the other major project, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion content in the first year curriculum. I've been actually working on a couple of things and talking to stakeholder and also some of the center. I think I remember one of the meetings that we had that talked about, and there are a couple of difficulties that we can identify when it comes to the content implementation. Something is like the instructors are not really sometimes really ready to teach the content just because their professional field is not necessarily aligned to the content itself. And also we really have the limited time for the course itself. It's only 45 minutes to like an hour per week. So we are only like a one credit class. It is really limitation for like how much content that we can put it in. We've been having a conversation with actually the Dean Belsos. That was this week, and thank you so much for it. And I was actually able to identify the two other stakeholders who have been working on some sort of related project and have been interested in. So I have been getting in contact with them, and I hope I will be able to update something positive in the direction. But that is. Other than that, I've been serving the Tech Fee Advisory Committee. We've been actually exploring some of the facilities and the system that we have over campus, and I've been personally really enjoying to see everything that we have, all of the work that our technology team has been putting on over the year. So hopefully that we'll be able to have a really good discussion after everything. Other than that, I think, I will limit my report here and would like to take questions.
Perfect timing, only 5 seconds out. I will take any questions. Do we have any questions for Senator Hashimoto? Any questions? All right, thank you. Our next report is Senator Wayne.
Alrighty, good evening, everybody. So I apologize.
Senator Wayne, you can take the time to maybe move your mic up.
I
will not count that as your time.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I apologize. I did forget my notes because today has been a bit of a crazy day with midterms week. But I do want to address the 3 projects that I've been working on so far this semester. The first one is actually a proposal that I'll be introducing to the Student Affairs Committee at our next meeting regarding Lot 4, the visitor pay lot. As many of you may know, all of our daytime lots, the gold lot and purple lots, go into a period of non-enforcement at the night. And currently, Lot 4 is the only paid lot that that still requires payment and is enforced after the hours of 6:30, depending on the day. This actually came to my attention during last finals week as myself and other members of my constituency were ticketed at 7:14 p.m. during finals week. We've also seen Congressman Hagedorn, who unfortunately has passed away. Him and 2 of his staff were ticketed spring semester of last year as well, after those hours where the gold lot and all flowbird parking is in a period of non-enforcement. So this resolution is just to call for the non-enforcement after those hours. The next thing that I've been working on is the resolution between College Democrats and Turning Point USA that was passed last night, calling for accessibility on our campus. We'll have a little bit more information on that in the future. Joey, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but yeah.
I can talk at this if you want to, or Senator Carlson. I know that you have a report after this too, if you want to.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, and
It's
then
whatever you guys prefer.
the last thing that I've been working on is one that has actually come to my attention in the last few weeks with the accessibility issues that we've been facing. As many of you may be familiar with, campus security, especially in regards to accessibility, has not been quite as reliable as students require. And so I've been looking into the ability to get a police department strictly for the campus, given our size. This would be comparable to what the University of Minnesota has in place at 3 of its 5 campuses. And I will yield to questions.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for Senator Wink? Senator Roberts?
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that last point of the police? What do you mean exactly by that?
So on the Duluth, Morris, and Twin Cities campuses for the University of Minnesota, they have a police force strictly for campus security. So those individuals will have the emergency training that some of our security staff lack. They'll also be able to help with legal proceedings in case of assault or any sort of legal altercation that would take place on campus. That would also decrease the response time that we have by contacting first campus security and then contacting the Mankato Police Department, as well as take pressure off the Mankato Police Department in those cases.
Vice President Soberso?
I would just recommend that you get a temperature on the student body before you move ahead too far in that project. Because it could be something that could be controversial, and so kind of just make sure you have the backing.
Yep, I understand. I appreciate that. I am actually just starting to look into this in the last couple of weeks, especially as we've been talking about the accessibility issues. I just feel like that would be a good way for us to help those individuals and to bring a bit more accountability to our campus security.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any further questions? Any questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, thank you, Senator Wink. Our next and last report of the day is from Senator Carlson.
Alrighty, hello everyone. I'll try to make this quick. As David had mentioned, really excited about the proposal that Turning Point USA and College of Democrats have put together. Joey and I and those two groups have worked really hard to come up with some ideas that I think would be very good, and some of those includes having an ADA staff on hand, emergency equipment in each kind of dorm to get people out, and just a lot more stuff obviously on there. We can go a bit more into detail if you have any questions for me. But yeah, I think it's a really cool way, and I think it shows how important this proposal is for our school, that two very opposite side, I guess, of the political spectrum groups can come together and make this proposal. So I think it's pretty monumental for the school, actually. So kudos to Joey and helping this all. But as for College of Business, I have meetings with the dean. Sean and I do bi-weekly. We're working on a business week. A lot of universities do this where they really get to exemplify what the College of Business does and different activities. We're also working on the transfer curriculum with the College of Business. I know myself as a transfer had a really hard time initially, so we're working on that. Speaking of having student advisors being assigned when you come to the College of Business, also looking at as the school as a whole. We are also continuing to work on problems with classes that we see online or Zoom. There's been a lot of problems within the College of Business that I've noticed where professors have just chosen to, I don't want to say take the easy way out, but kind of just doing all online classes and not even having the option of a Zoom or in person. And I think that kind of takes away completely the kind of college experience overall. As for, like Rihanna said, President Stiff, I was at the meeting on Monday and today with Senator France and Representative Fredericks. They seemed very like they were accepting of our proposals, and overall our conversations went great. And yeah, I think that's all I have for you, so I will go to questions.
Thank you. I will take my first question from Vice President Sorensen. Right on time, though. Okay, shut up. Sorry.
Speaking to the alarm. Okay, so
for the alarm.
my question was about the student advisor piece. So I know last year the College of Business, I don't know the name of it, but it was started by Manav and somebody else, and they created, what was it called?
David Alima.
Yeah, David.
Student executive team.
Student executive team is what
Yes.
it's called. A, do you know if that's still in effect? And B, how is that different or tied to the student advisors piece?
So the student exec team does still meet. I go to their meetings as well. They do a lot of cool stuff with the RSOs within the College of Business, but their job, and they're also going to be putting on the event of the Business Week. So they more do stuff along the lines of getting students involved and speaking on behalf of students to the dean, and they kind of have like a good relationship with the dean, where they almost act as a College of Business senator, honestly, except they're obviously not in the Senate, but like with the relationship towards the dean. What I was proposing for student advisors would be more of something along the lines of, on your DARS report, when it shows, okay, this professor is my advisor, it'll also have a student advisor who's either a junior or senior of your major. So when your professor advisor cannot meet with you, don't really have any certain recommendations on a certain question you have, you can go to that student advisor. So just another, I know there's been some students, constituents of mine that haven't been able to even get a hold of their advisor and get emails back. So just having that second option.
Thank you. President Stitt?
Yeah, I just want to say kudos to you all for the Turning Point in College Democrats resolution. I think that is really cool that you guys were able to get together and do that. My only question is, have you all already sent it to the president, or will that be coming soon?
I'm gonna give this to Joey.
So we have not yet sent it to the president or the presidential cabinet. The intention was to send it probably tomorrow was the plan, to allow for the opportunity to, if me and Senator Carlson were able to bring it up to the Joint Committee for a little bit to see if there was any further input before finally sending it off. But being that it has been passed through both bodies and has been voted on by both bodies, there's not really a whole lot of changing we could do without resending it. So with that, to my friends in the room that are on the presidential cabinet, you'll likely see that fairly soon from us. And to give a little bit of background for you guys, this was something that was requested of us by President Inch to draft up a resolution like this. So we figured, hey, why not jump at the opportunity? So hopefully you guys will see that soon.
Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have any, Senator Roberts?
It's a comment. In terms of the business, in terms of that online element, that is an experience that I have heard from my constituents as a problem. So a lot of the people in graduate studies are saying that's also a problem. It's a common complaint I've been hearing as well.
Sounds like it should be definitely something the school looks at as a whole.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any last questions? All right, no further questions. Thank you. All right, moving on to vacancies. Once again, we are not taking any applications, but I will be announcing the vacancies we have. We have College of Allied Health and Nursing, College of Arts and Humanities, College of Education, College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Graduate Studies Senator, Off-Campus Senator, and other Off-Campus Senator, Res Life Senator, and another Res Life Senator. Another recommendation would be please your constituents who you think would be good senators and would like to see how student government runs. We will resuming all the candidate applications on March 31st, so they can apply in the meantime, but we will be taking their interviews after our budget season. Senator Nowak?
Are we going to be doing vacancy elections after March 31st for that last month of being in Senate then?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much.
And the idea behind that is obviously they will not be able to do that many senator projects, but they will still have a chance to come be a senator and see how student government runs if they're interested in being in student government next year. All right, then we have, moving on to new business, we have vacancy election operating procedures. It was emailed out to everybody and it was motioned by both of our committees, Academic Affairs and Student Affairs Committee. Would anyone from both of the committees would like to talk or say something about that? I will open the floor for discussion on this, if we have any discussion points.
We had a possible
Motion to amend.
State that.
I'll second it.
Go ahead. Do you have it? I need a written. Okay.
Hold on. Thank you. We're pulling it up.
I will take yours and yours afterwards.
While we're doing this, does any one of you all want to just speak about like the process?
Yeah. Since we're opening the floor for discussion and it's coming from both of the committees, essentially all of you are in both of those committees. So if you want to have any discussion points.
Okay.
I will take Senator Nowak.
Point of personal privilege. Can we display the bill so that everybody can see it because we do not have written copies of it?
For sure.
We just went to grab the food. Is there IT? Is there a way through
This was emailed to Robert, so if we can have him pull that up.
To take a 5-minute recess in order to get this up.
Second. Do I have any dissent? All right, we have a 5-minute recess.
Are you involved in like other organizations or like from mine?
What are you doing?
So we're having a night. It's gonna be.
That's all right. I just wanted to check.
I'm gonna email this to him.
Oh, yeah, it's the.
I already sent it to Robert.
It's gonna be $10.
Agenda and resolution. Tell him it should be in Menaham's agenda email. Hey Robert, this resolution should be in the agenda email that I sent out to you on Monday.
I'll send it to you right now because I'm trying to look out email. What do you want me to text?
Thank you.
Whichever.
I'll email it to you. Because it's
We'll see what the rest.
it's gonna be the 26th. I'm already because our event will be
I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't sure if
I'll involve the details as well.
No.
candidates in the
Yes, and then we need to.
I think they're all.
Yeah. There should be an action
Still a funny idea, a discussion. I get why, but I just, I think it's,
We have a buffet set, so if you want to talk.
that's my biggest thing. I'm sure I have with their culture, like.
Well, we have like Bangladesh.
We get it?
We both are doing however together, so we're gonna be doing. Okay. So we'll have food from Bangladesh, we'll have chicken roast, and then we'll have vegetable biryani, and then we'll have different drinks, different kinds of desserts as well.
If I can have everyone take their seats, we're going to get started in 5 seconds. Thanks, Robert. All right, we are back live. Who will go first? Senator Nowak, did you want to go first?
My thing was just the point of personal privilege to get it up there.
Is there any other discussion points? Senator Carlson?
I was just gonna kind of speak a little bit more into it for those of you who weren't here. I think majority were, but the reason we added second questioning was we thought it was unfair to have a discussion and then points be brought up and not give the candidate a chance to respond to the points that had been brought up. And we believe that with the second questioning, that it gives the candidate to speak and stand up for themselves. Just because obviously sometimes things are said that might not be true and we want to give them a chance to speak for themselves. As for adding the tabling to vote until the next meeting, we just added that just in case discussions and questions, it was just getting too long. Adding a second questioning period already makes the process longer itself. So giving an opportunity to table it and voting next meeting would kind of, if we had other things we needed to get done, would help that out as well. And I think that's all I'm going to talk about. Yes.
Thank you. Senator Roberts?
Yeah, I'll just add, also on the tabling front, we don't perceive it being used often. I wanted to clarify that anyone who has a concern of like, this is going to be used as like a new method of filibuster. No, this is going to be, it's going to be a very special situation that leads to that tabling. And we're only offering it there as kind of the, just in case option.
Senator Flake?
I just wanted to reiterate Senator Roberts' point. It's intended to be a release valve, basically, if something is brought up that needs to be addressed but can't be addressed within the chamber in an appropriate manner, which we've kind of seen come up, but not really. Yeah, sorry if I'm a little ineloquent right now. I had concussion recently, so.
Thank you. Vice President Seversal?
Yeah, so looking at that clause, I get what it's getting at, but the last sentence, a candidate's election can only be tabled once, is a little bit confusing because obviously most of the time we'd have multiple candidates for a position. So I'd maybe suggest a friendly amendment to say like, a senator position's election can only be tabled once, or something to clarify that like you can't just say like, well, we want to come talk to this candidate more this week and not call the other candidates back. Does that kind of make sense? Okay.
Is this friendly amendment accepted?
Second? Is that what you're asking for?
Since it's a friendly amendment.
I mean, it says by academic affairs and student affairs, so.
Yeah, we kind of all wrote
I was
it.
the one who kind of pushed for that part, but second.
So
you
it's
second?
unclear who we're supposed to get a.
No. So
I just have a question about it.
Yes.
So you're saying that you would like to make it so that all candidates would have to come back the next week?
If it's for a singular position, yes. So let's say have the College of Education position that there's some controversy around, right? What I'm trying to avoid is have you say, we've heard enough from candidate A, but I have more questions for candidate B, so I just want to call back candidate B next week. To me, that feels like it's going to go in the opposite direction of being fair. So clarify the language to say, like, if we want to have more discussion on this position, that we call everybody back the additional week. And not have it say a candidate's, that implies that one person could be called back.
Okay, I saw some resentment from other senators, so I'm going to call for a second and then for a dissent. So do we have a second for this amendment?
I'll second.
Second? Do we have any dissent? All right, since it's dissented, we're going to vote on this.
Is Bennett allowed to state his dissent?
Yeah.
How many in favor of the amendment?
I think we can, do we have a discussion period?
Yeah.
We can have discussion
Yeah.
on the amendment.
I believe so, let me look at it.
So they might have a chance.
Sure. So actually, we can just start a discussion period. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start a discussion period, and Senator Hansen, do you have any discussion points for this?
Yeah, I just think that friendly amendment kind of defeats the whole purpose of the reason that part is there.
We're not taking it as a friendly amendment anymore. We're voting on it.
Well, yeah, like originally her proposal for a friendly amendment for that was kind of defeated the whole purpose of that section, which is kind of, as Patrick said, a release valve. In that way, it doesn't really work as a release valve. It is more disruptive than beneficial, at least so it seems to be.
Okay.
I think it should remain how it is.
Sure. Senator Roberts?
And this is where I need a little bit of clarification on what you're talking about. It's senator position itself. So if there was only one position, there were two senators who are running for that singular position, that's where that amendment that you're talking about would come into play. Am I correct on that understanding?
Are you yielding?
Yes, I'm yielding.
Yeah, so I'm talking about, instead of having it say, a candidate, I would have it say an election can only be tabled once, like an election for the College of Dems or something. Excuse me, College of Education or something like that. We're getting our resolutions confused, rather than hauling back an individual candidate more than once, if there's other candidates that were running.
Okay.
Yes. President Stipp?
Yeah, I would just say I agree, just because like if I'm a candidate running against someone else and only one of them is called back, I'm gonna be in my head like, what was that? You know, kind of questioning, was it fair? And then eventually when I do come back and let's say they do pick the other candidate, I just like to know a reason why, like, you know, a little bit more clarification on that. So I agree.
Senator Nowak?
I also agree with Vice President Sversel's statement and inclusion here. I find that it does make the most sense to be fair in order to bring back people as long as they are running for the same position, rather than just bring back one person for a multi-person spot going for the same position. And just to clarify, in the event that there were multiple people running for multiple positions, you would not need to bring back all of them, correct? So like, yeah, yielding to you.
So you're saying, let's say like candidate Jones is running for College of Education and grad or something? Is that what you're saying?
So theoretically, candidate Jones, shout out candidate Jones, running for off-campus, and then there's 2 off-campus vacancies, and candidate Veltzos is also running for off-campus. You wouldn't have to bring back both of them since there's enough spots to theoretically elect both. So what you could do is just say, we want to bring back candidate Jones, and we want to vote on Veltzos today.
Well, because they're 2 separate positions, it's different. So if you guys felt confident on candidate Veltzos and wanted to make one election today, but weren't quite confident on the other one, that's a whole separate position.
Yeah.
Senator Hashimoto?
I just wanted to ask a question to Senator Bennett about, I wasn't really understanding like how that addition would be disruptive. I just wanted to clarify like how would it be a little possibly disruptive or?
Can I answer it?
Yes.
Well, the issue is less with the concept behind it and more as the proposed language, changing it to an election, which would kind of make, at least my interpretation of that, would mean that they would get one tabling choice for an entire election, which it really does defeat the purpose of having this release valve to prevent, say, a potential issue or a potential kind of divisive topic from going forward. And also with the equality thing, based on like what's fair and what's not fair, the other candidates can return. It's not. It just doesn't. I don't understand. It doesn't track for me personally. at least on that.
All right, Senator Roberts?
How does this sound instead? A specific election position can be tabled once. Does that sound better to you? I'll yield over to you. Please yield back when you're done.
That would be better and a little more. The issue is the more we discuss it, the more it's becoming obvious that we would have to.
Bennett, can I request you to speak louder?
Oh, sorry. I think that would be better, but at least what I've seen here is the more we discuss, the more it seems like we have to add more to this to make it equitable, which is, I guess, good that we're working on it, but I don't think we could go on today if we did an actual change. You back to Robert.
I would like to amend the motion to list off the words, a specific election position can be tabled once.
Do I have a second for this?
Second.
Do I have a dissent? All right, since there's no dissent, we're not doing the voting, right?
Yep, so now the main motion that I motioned now says that. So we're still in discussion period for the main motion.
Right. All right, so since this amendment was accepted, we're moving back to the discussion period of the main motion with the amendment. I will take my next discussion point with Senator Dustin.
So first of all, if I understood the resolution like that clause, I think it was talking about a candidate that maybe someone might have like further question for, so calling them back to just provide clarification, I guess. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. If that's the case, my concern goes back to the vice president. So, for instance, if we have more than 5 people running for a specific position, and then they came first, everyone presented, we have maybe we want to interrogate one person more to understand something that we didn't get. Do we need to call all 5 or 10 people back, or we just, is that what you're recommending, that we call every one of them back, even if we have concern with just one person?
Senator Flynn?
Before I actually make my point, I have a question about where we are. Are we on, because as far as I can tell, we never cleared up the dissent from Senator Hansen.
We're on the discussion period.
For the motion, we haven't voted on the motion. So we voted on the amendment of the motion.
Okay.
But we're in the discussion period of the main motion.
Okay.
As amended.
As amended.
So we accepted the amendment from Senator Roberts, and now we're discussing on the whole motion with the additional amendment to it. Does that make sense, Senator Flynn?
Yeah.
Thank you. Senator Carlson.
I have one more friendly amendment to make that I realized wasn't, I guess, specified, and someone had pointed out to me, but it was something that we had discussed. And it would be added to, sorry, one second. Okay, under the be it further resolved, we are amending the rules outlined to better fit with the current and future operating procedure by inserting subsection F to include a period.
Senator Carlson, I'm going to request you to say which line you're trying to amend.
Okay, that makes it easier. Line 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess paragraph 4.
State your amendment.
So I would like to add just that this be available to the public. So, can I yield to you? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, but you're not going to like the thing that I'm about to say. Point of order.
Yeah, point of order, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, point of order, we can't add another amendment until we finish talking about Vice President Versal's amendment, and then we can come back to adding another amendment.
Wait, I thought we were on the.
No, we finished the
No.
Amended the motion.
We amended the amendment, but we still have to pass or deny the amendment that Vice President Versal put out.
That's what I
So we gotta
was.
finish that up first.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we vote on the amendment?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Call the question.
Okay, call the question. Everybody, we're moving to vote on Vice President Versal's amendment now. All in favor of Vice President Versal's amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right, it's a clear yes. So now we have accepted Vice President Versal's amendment. Now we're moving back to our original motion with both amendments. Now we're opening the floor for discussion on the whole resolution. As amended. Twice. All right.
Sorry, I got lost in translation.
All right. According to my list, I have, Senator Roberts, did you still want to go?
That was on the prior amended motion, and I was going to move the previous
Sure.
question there.
Sure. All right. Then I'm canceling this list. And do we have any further discussion points for our whole motion?
Yeah, so I do have another amendment for the motion.
State that.
Yes.
Was Senator Carlson in the speaker's list?
Did you have one or no?
Well, she was
So
gonna do the
I had a
amendment from the
discussion
floor.
point. It was brought to my attention that we didn't specify whether or not the discussion period was going to be public or not. And so I think we need something.
Is this a discussion point or a motion?
It's going to be a discussion point because I want us to discuss it first.
All right. Do we have any further discussion points on this?
On that specific thing?
Yes.
I've been thinking about it, originally I thought, well, we should keep it private. I'm thinking we just don't define it within this amendment because I feel like it's defined in some of the greater bylaws that the meetings are open anyways.
Okay, that's what I was assuming too, but I just wanted to be on the same page.
Yeah, so us not putting that in here also leaves a little leeway if for some reason something needed to be done differently by discretion of chair.
It doesn't imply.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have any further discussion points? If there's any other amendment, I will take at this point.
Yeah.
State that.
Let me look at and see what specific line it is. Yeah, it's line 3 or paragraph 3 that says, "Be it resolved, we are amending subsection B to strike the requirement that all candidates be asked the same question in a particular election." I would like to amend that just to say, "Be it further resolved that be it further resolved that subsection B remain in place to protect the equity of candidates. However, allow subsection B to be adjusted to allow for additional follow-up questioning for a specific candidate." And to explain the rationale behind this, recently at Students United, we were discussing elections. We were getting a new executive director for Students United, and we were talking about how the hiring process and that will go similar to an election. And with that, in the hiring process, you still have to ask candidates all the same questions because when you don't, that leaves room for bias and inequity, essentially. You have to put candidates on the same playing level, on the same field, measuring them by the same standards, or else that leaves room for them to come back and say, well, we weren't even asked the same question, so how do I know they were being fair in the questioning period? But I do see the intention with the committee saying, like, if you have a follow-up for candidate B, you probably shouldn't have to ask both of them. Let's say someone said they're a terrible person and they kick puppies. You probably shouldn't have to ask candidate A why they're kicking puppies when they're not. And so I would just say to continue to keep the same questioning, but let's say if candidate B says something problematic or you have some issues with what they said, you can have a follow-up question that doesn't have to be specific to both candidates. And that is my amendment. And I second.
Do I have a dissent?
Dissent.
All right, now we're gonna go into the discussion period for President Stiff's amendment. I will take my first discussion point from Senator Carlson.
I guess I have a question for you. So the point of that part that we added was, because many of us have been frustrated with when there's candidates where we're asked, what kind of projects do you have in mind? And then they say something, and then we can't follow up with the question of, oh, well, I'm also really interested in that. Would you be wanting to do this? Because you have to ask the same question. So would that, I guess I'm confused where with what you're amending, take that away?
No, it would actually still allow for that.
Okay.
So you would still ask candidate A and B, what are your projects? And then they answer, and then candidate B says something really interesting. You'd be like, okay, now for candidate B, can I work with you on this? And that is just as
So initial questions all need to be the same?
Yes.
Vice President Silverstone?
Okay, so I wanted to speak a little bit of this since I was the second on this. So the rationale, kind of what President Stiff got at, but just to further clarify, is to make sure the questions you're asking are of the same caliber, the same intensity, so that you're not setting one candidate up to fail, but you still have the option to clarify, and like they just said. So it's like you have candidate A and candidate B, and maybe you have a personal bias against candidate B, like you don't think they're ill-equipped, or you think they're ill-equipped to serve. You're not asking candidate A, what leadership qualities do you possess that makes you proficient at this job? And candidate B, what's your favorite color? And then we get to discussion, we go, well, candidate A had amazing leadership, and I didn't hear any of that from candidate B. And then later look back and go, yeah, because you didn't ask candidate B that question. And so we can ask candidate A and candidate B, what leadership qualities do you possess that make you prepared for this? And if candidate B says, I'm really great at coloring, you can ask follow-up questions of how does coloring contribute to this position, but you're still giving the same baseline of equity. I guess I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused with the intention of this motion, because I thought it was to I don't know. Never mind. I'll just go ahead. Yeah.
Senator Roberts.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify a lot of the reason why that line is how it is written. Senator Carlson brought up a part of the reason. Another reason for it is one of the earlier elections that we did had two different senator areas. And it became really hard because one senator area of an off-campus and then one of a college are going to have very, very different goals in terms of discussion. And that was where part of that came from, is we wanted to make sure that we could focus on one candidate in terms of, say, College of Business. And because off-campus center is going to have a completely different view on something. It's going to have a different points to make. Another aspect that led to this is not necessarily, to cause equity problems. One of the things that we discussed when writing this resolution was if the other candidate wanted to respond to that specific question, they could absolutely answer it. And I think that might have been left out in this resolution. Well, it's one of the things, it's not necessarily to exclude, it's so we can focus our questions and find out the specifics of what their goals are in terms of that phase. The question I also had for you all was, with these questions, would you want that in secondary questioning?
Yeah.
Or would that not be permitted at all during that full questioning phase? Would we need to then go through the entire process to bring them back for second questioning for that? And I will yield to President Stiff.
So if I'm getting your question correctly, you're asking when, let's say if you table it for them to come back, would they be able to? No.
No.
Okay.
Do you mind yielding back?
Yeah.
My question is, during that main phase of questioning, so after they've done their initial speech and we've done their questioning, so they got into the closing statements, but particularly in that main questioning block, we would only, under your amendment, be able to ask them specific questions for both during that, or more, during that period. Okay.
Question. No. So, yeah. So you would, I don't know how to like explain it differently, but just like, so let's say you're at the last question or whatever in the main questioning period. You ask both of them the question. You're not interested in what anything further that candidate A has, but you're only interested in what candidate B has to say further. You don't have to then ask that second round to both of them. You only have to ask it to candidate B if that's what you're interested in. I think that answers this question.
Are you yielding to Vice President?
Yeah, yield. No, I thought that polling was not. Do you have more?
All right, then I'm going to move on to Senator Flynn.
Yeah, well, it's not relevant anymore because it got dealt with. But the other thing, I did want to point out that somewhere along the lines there was a thing about senators may answer questions that are not directly asked of them during the primary questioning. I don't know where that went.
Is it not in here? Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it got removed at some point, and I don't know if that was on purpose or not.
Since this resolution came from both committees, if there's something you would like to change, then you'll have to make an amendment.
Yeah, I'm just... I'm just going to yield for now.
Who are you yielding to? All right. Moving on to Senator Hawk.
So instead of having it like the fourth point that we were discussing on, instead of having it like in a last way of having all candidates, could we specify it like having it for a specific specific role, and the initial question should be the same for both. For example, like we ask both, what are you interested in? And then they might say, like you were saying, for coloring. So another person says, I'm interested in puppies. And so instead of asking them about puppies and we have a specific question about coloring, we can ask them about something related to that and not having to ask them about the puppies in that same question. Or to be more specific, if we have like a project base, for example, I'm more interested in like a specific project and like candidate B is interested in a different type of project. We can ask the question if maybe candidate A had explained it properly but candidate B wasn't more informative. We can ask a follow-up question to a specific candidate, but the initial question remains the same to be on the same page for everybody to be able to understand and question everyone on the same level. Because, for example, I might have a project like I had was for the feminine hygiene product, and I had everything explained. And for example, candidate B has a project on maybe having equipments on campus, but does not explain it too much. But so that we can ask them a follow-up question to the second candidate only, depending on that, but not having to ask the first candidate about it, if that makes sense.
Yes, me yield.
I yield to.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying. First question is generic for everyone. Second can be specific. So yeah.
Vice President Silverstal.
Okay, I have 2 points. Let me write them down so that I'm not forget. All right, so first I wanted to respond to Senator Roberts. I got a little lost in your questioning, but I'm going to try and answer what you were asking. So first, you brought up an example of like a college of education and an off-campus, correct? So when you brought up that example, that made me think that you were saying that we had to ask the same base questions in every single election. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that you are having to ask the same questions of candidates for one specific position. So that's to clarify that. Again, that's to address equity gaps and make the process more fair, transparent, and efficient. The second part, that I think is just an overall comment, is between this resolution and the conversation right now we're having, we're holding vacancy elections to a level of scrutiny that general elections don't have at all, and I'd be hard-pressed to find on any other organization on campus for starting in a position. When you guys wanted to run, well, if you got elected in the special election or the main election, you just had to get at least 1 vote, and that was it. Now, you could You could talk to your constituencies and try and convince them. You could debate if you wanted, but we weren't grilling you multiple times in multiple rounds of interviews. And as many of you have pointed out, we've had a hard enough time recruiting new senators this year as we continue to go through pandemic years. I don't really know any candidate, especially a new candidate to the position or to the school, that's going to want to go through multiple rounds of interviews, being grilled by senators just to ask if they have enough experience. I understand that there was an extreme example that senators are concerned about of an election that went, I'll say, untraditionally, but that was an extreme example. And when we get into this intensity, I think we're holding new candidates to an unfair level of scrutiny. Like, this isn't a job interview, you know? And also, to point out, there's been a lot of questions about what's equitable, what's not equitable, and people are saying that it's not equitable to not know what happens in a discussion. That is like the majority of job interviews, of how like government operates. Like, you get to ask questions when you're in an interview, right? You get asked questions asked of you, you respond, you submit your materials, and then you don't get to say like, well, it's not fair that I didn't hear what you said or how you decided. That's just how it works. That's just basic business practice, is they then make the decision after they ask questions of you. So I'm a little lost on how we're getting to that part being unfair. And it seems like this whole thing is getting confusing to me on what the intent of this motion is. Because from some I'm hearing it's to increase equity, from others it's to increase like procedurally. I'm not really clear what this motion is getting at. So those are a few of my concerns.
Senator Dustin?
So fellow senators, as we all know, we have like an event right after this meeting, and it's already like 6 o'clock. We have midterm exams, so I hereby motion to suspend discussion until the next meeting.
Second.
Point of order. Are you motioning to table?
Yes.
Yeah, to table for next meeting.
Okay.
And then I have several seconds. Do I have a dissent? All right, then we're tabling this.
We were about to fight right there.
This discussion until next week.
Next week, not next week, the week after that.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to see you next week.
I just realized that next week is spring break.
Point of order?
Yes.
Or point of information?
Yes.
To clarify, when we bring this off the table in 2 weeks, when we rediscuss this, we will continue to be in the discussion period about the motion?
Right, yes. We will start from the discussion period and then move on to the voting period and see if there's any amendments. For the time being, we're moving on to our next business item, which is old business. We do not have any old business for today. Moving on to announcements. Do we have any announcements? Senator Carlson?
I just want to make a comment that for our next meeting, for like with the committees, if there's like an issue, because like obviously we all worked really hard to try and put this together. So if there's like something that you disagree with, like please come to that, because I know some people haven't always been there, and it makes it hard to try to put something together and then bring it in and then take it back and that kind of stuff. So just really try to be there, because I know some people have been missing it too.
Thank you. Do we have any further announcements?
Is one person wanted one vote at the end?
President Sir?
I would just say I would second that. If you're missing committees, like you need to be there. You already know that's what your requirements are, and so we know who has been missing and who hasn't. I'm gonna try to come to that just so like any amendments or anything from exec can also be discussed at that meeting. So, yeah.
And just to emphasize to that, everyone who has been getting emails about missing meetings, at this point you will just be sent to standards. Senator Hawk.
So can I have it's for announcement, right? Yeah, thank God. I was thinking like, did you ask me for a question? But yes, from BSON side, that's the Balancing Organization and Student Association of India, we're going to be having a cultural night on the 26th of March. It's going to be from 5 to 8. It's going to have food, it's going to have music, it's going to have a lot of fun stuff, activities, including some gift cards giveaways during the event, and I really hope you all could come to the event. No, like some events on campus don't have food but do have tickets, but our one does include food as well. So it's not like you'll be only sitting there and looking at people, but you'll be also eating and having pretty good, trying to make it more as much authentic as we can. And the tickets are going to be $10 for the student or anybody with math cards, or $12 for anybody else. It's going to be an online ticketing. If you guys want, I can send you out the posters with the QR code where you can go to the link and purchase tickets if anybody's interested.
I have a question. It's my birthday. Do I get a free ticket? I'm just kidding. Senator Henson.
Is it Indian food?
Indian and Bangladeshi. So it's like the same regional food. So yes, you get Indian food.
Okay, thank God.
And then I have my last announcement from Emmy. Wait, I'm so sorry, Senator Wayne. That's why I asked for these placards, because I can see them.
Yeah, I apologize. I was in a hurry today. Just really quick, as they mentioned in tonight's presentation, music is really important to our campus. The concert choir will be performing this Friday night at the Christ Chapel up at the Gustavus campus with the Mankato Symphony. Unfortunately, tickets are not discounted, but they are $25. They will be performing, well, the symphony will be performing parts from Beethoven's Fifth and Beethoven's Ninth, and the choir will be singing with the third movement of Beethoven's Ninth. That is this Friday at the Christ Chapel, Gustavus Adolphus College.
Come sing this guy sing. Or come hear this guy sing.
Thank you. Do we have any last announcements? All right, I'll take you.
All right, cool. Hey, so I guess, are you guys excited for food?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a couple quick things. So I do want to say, nice job as far as how you've been listening to presentations and asking questions. It's really nice to see everyone here in person, pretty much everyone, but also to kind of see the way that y'all are considering and really thinking about each of the different proposals that have come forward. So the exciting stuff, food and team builder time. So if you go around the corner to CSU 25345, there is food there. You're going to find out what it is when you walk into that room. If any of you beat me there's a bald guy in there. That's my partner Nate. He's making sure nobody takes our food. But yeah, so nice job everyone. I'll let you do your roll call and closing and we'll go from there.
Thank you. All right. I am not going to take if you guys are doing the roll call because it's a mandatory event and I need the attendance for the next event. So I'm going to move on to the roll call. Sorry about that, guys. Senator Bassett? Here. Senator Hashimoto?
Here.
If I can have everyone pay attention, please. Senator Chimizier? Senator Carlson? Here. Senator Roberts?
Here.
Senator T. Schiffer?
Here.
Senator Hobb?
Here.
Senator Hansen?
Here.
Senator Osman?
Here.
Senator Dustin?
Here.
Senator Saha?
There.
Senator Spears?
Here.
Senator Wynn?
Yeah.
Senator Huzefa?
Here.
Senator Wayne?
Present.
Senator Pina? Senator Nowak?
Howdy.
Senator Flynn?
Yeet.
Senator Hopwood? President Stiff? Here. Vice President Russo? Here. Speaker Khan? Here. All right, I adjourn this meeting at 4:15 p.m. 6:15. 6:15. I think.